There it is. You're now live streaming to YouTube. So then I can introduce music.
And people have already clicked off.
No way. Media file, hard rock. So now there's the music should be playing on the live stream. You have to take my word for it.
Y'all are ready for this? I'm not ready for this.
Actually, you hit that right on. So, welcome to the new and improved, not terrible show. The music's out now. I got to figure out how to introduce that better and end it better than just clicking it on and clicking it off. It's very loud also. I don't know how that'll play out in the stream itself. But this is the new and improved, not terrible show. I'm Eric.
And I'm Matthew.
All right, and actually our names are right down there in the corner. That's me, Eric, and I can't point to yours, but it's over there.
I guess I'm Matt.
So this is the Not Terrible Show, obviously, for those of you that listened to the podcast, both of you. This won't be anything new. Maybe three of you. This won't be anything new. For those of you just joining us now that we're on video, hopefully stick around and love, learn, and rage at things along with us. Kind of those three words are going to be the new theme here for the Not Terrible Show. This was Matt's brainchild, and so I'll turn it over to him for what his idea for this or where this stemmed from.
Basically, it's my Twitter handle is Love, Learn, Rage. Basically, because that was available.
Okay.
And originally, I was a positive radical.
Yeah.
But I thought the idea for the podcast is that we share, one thing during the week that we loved, one thing that we learned, and one thing that we raged about. So
yeah,
go on for 4 hours.
I mean, we'll still do the occasional 4-hour election night show, maybe. And that'll be all filed under the rage heading, if it goes anything like the last one. But I guess with that we can kind of start. We'll basically have a rage segment, a learn segment, and a love segment. We'll each introduce the things that we raged, loved, and learned. I'm not sure. Is there a particular order you want to go in, or should we stick with?
I thought the rage, the learn, and then the love. So
okay, yeah, that works for me. That's how I've got it laid out on the
OneNote. Basically, we could do rage, love, rage, learn, rage, and then we just live in despair all the time. So
no, there's definitely no shortage of things to rage at. I'll agree with that.
And plus, we can hook people with the rage, so they can
definitely
just do the rage, and then they can click off. Like, okay,
I don't want to learn things. Learning's for the birds. For the birds. So speaking of for the birds, that segment probably has seen its last. But we'll see. We may.
Well, I figure at the end, we can just throw in items of either food or entertainment that we think are certified not terrible, or maybe for the birds.
That works. Yeah,
we can do that. Just a quick, so certified not terrible for the birds. One
definitely.
Segment at the end, just a couple of shout outs to stuff we liked or didn't like.
Okay, so that works for me. And I guess with that, do you want to go first, or shall I?
Yeah, I guess I could go first.
Go for it, my friend.
So I guess my rage of the week is I was listening to NPR talk about the crisis on the border with the children being separated from the parents and being held in in one facility with like 300 children and some of the hard conditions and that kind of thing. But on NPR, all of a sudden the commentator is kind of given what I would consider giving Trump like shade by being an apologist, by saying, well, the separation policy is really to stop trafficking, because if they're not the the parent of the child, then they separate them to prevent trafficking. And then it's a record, there was one group of 1,000 that showed up at once, and that's a record. which makes it sound like that this is unprecedented numbers of people entering our border, the Mexican border, and it's not. We've had more people at different times coming across the border.
Definitely. Well, and I mean, maybe if we hadn't destabilized Central American economies, we wouldn't be running into hardly any of this issue, but whatever.
But I mean, some of the problem is that they've redirected resources, right, from taking care of people and, facilities and giving people soap and toothbrushes that they tried to argue are not necessary for health and hygiene. Somehow the three judges were like dismayed, like, are you serious? Like, trying to tell us that you don't need toothbrush and soap, and then to security, and then claim it's a crisis, and then not allowing, usually if they're seeking refugee status, they're usually led into the country and given a court date to arrive. And so more and more they want to hold them and not allow them to, go into the country. And so obviously people are, upset about this, but the fact that on NPR is just playing right into the Trump narrative without any research or out any questioning, not even questioning, but they're saying, like, almost justifying the family separation policy, justifying the claim that this is an emergency on the border, which, is just, a way of trying to divert resources for his political aspirations of delivering on a wall.
Yeah.
And, at the same time, I guess I'm upset because this is not really anything new as a whole. Like, it's gotten worse. It's like on steroids now. And
Definitely with the zero tolerance policy.
It is a crisis that kids are dying and the hard conditions and the separation of the adults with children coming across is, just abhorrent. But this is a policy that's been started back in the Clinton era, where they decided that they were going to try to funnel people into the Sonoran Desert corridor, a much more dangerous and treacherous route, figuring that would dissuade people, so put up walls, like that was the thing. Like, we were already building a wall when Donald Trump was, running for president, saying we're going to build a wall. But the Democrats, they want to use that against him. They don't want to be like, yeah, well, we're kind of building the wall right now, right? Obama kind of deported more people, than any other president in our history. Plenty of families have been ripped apart by, we went to the Bernie rally, right, where the young woman got up and her parents were taken out of her house and deported. And that's nothing new. The pictures of the children in the cages that they're showing, originally when these stories first started, were pictures from the Obama era. The video of the guy, slashing the water bottles, the border agent that's slashing the water bottles, that was from the Obama era. Like, the problem is that Trump isn't the policy. Trump isn't the system. And it's the system that we need to fight. And of course, I want to fight Trump and I want to fight this, but it's more than that.
Yeah.
You can even look up Matt Taibbi, I guess, started a little video podcast and talking about how the mass media promised they weren't going to give Trump more free press, but here they go again.
Yeah, right.
And they're giving him just free press and giving him shade now. And
what did they? I think it amounted to like $2.5 billion worth of free press in the last election cycle.
Yeah, and he's going to get it again here too.
Oh yeah.
So.
Well, and I think of some of the things that Trump does know, that's one of the things he knows what buttons to press to get attention on him, right? Like, how can what can I say or tweet or do that's going to get people's attention on me and get me this free press? I mean, he's a master at using Twitter, even though he's an idiot. He knows how to use that to get a reaction.
I like Henry Giroux, who said he's a man unburdened by a complicated thought.
Right.
But he is intelligent in the way he knows how to brand himself, and he knows that facts don't matter, emotions matter. Yeah. You just say the thing that's emotional and get the people on board with you, and that's it. There was a
So,
story about him from years ago, right, where he like called up the newspaper pretending to be somebody else,
yeah,
trying to pump up his own self-worth, saying that he was a millionaire or whatever. And like people are using this as like, oh, what a insecure jerk he was. It's like, no, he understood that branding and image was everything.
yeah,
Like that's not something that's bad. I mean, it's just idiotic, of course. I mean, I just think
yeah,
it's stupid, but he knows that's the game.
yeah,
The only way he got saved from his bankrupt businesses and taking $100 million a year cash flow from his casinos that he ran into the ground was by image, right?
yeah,
He had the Apprentice where they had to come in and make the Trump Tower that was a fucking dump. They had to like spruce it up and make the
yeah,
boardroom look like he was actually successful. And he didn't have anybody that wanted to invest or do any business with him. But then Taiwan called and they're like, hey, we can put your name on a building because over there they're still like, oh, rich American guy put his name on it. So that's all he does. He licenses his name. Like that's
So
it. It's image.
that's kind of, I think, the problem we're going to run into here in the new podcast is we started on one topic and it's easy to kind of shoot off, and especially in the current climate, to shoot off
Yeah.
on tangents, right? And so your original
We should cut
rage
it off.
was
It's your
no.
turn to rage, sir. What is your rage of the week?
So actually, mine's fairly new this week. So yesterday, was it yesterday's Supreme Court? Yeah, it was yesterday's Supreme Court decision about gerrymandering, where they basically kicked it back and said that gerrymandering is a state legislature issue, not an issue that needs to be decided in the courts. More or less giving free rein to red states and blue states to redistrict as they see fit. Kind of akin to letting the foxes decide how henhouse security should be ran, right? Absolutely. We don't have any more election oversight. It seems like
Yeah,
there's got to be an arbiter that says this is inherently not a fair system, or this is a good way to draw this, or this isn't. Like we can't just have state legislatures who are largely in some of these states. It's like here in Washington, for instance, we almost have a supermajority of Democrats. We can redraw this state to never ever elect another red or maybe one or two GOP legislatures. And so why
right.
wouldn't we do that? And it's a bipartisan issue, but it sure isn't the way it seems. Like if I go onto message boards, everybody's cheering. Oh yeah, this is what we needed Kavanaugh, and this is what we needed Gorsuch for. And it's like, what the fuck are you like? This is going to affect all of you. Like, how do you not see that?
Right. Well, that's the thing. I mean, you got on the national level, you got multi-million-dollar, global corporations that can control legislation. But on a state level, you got medium-sized to large, corporations. They can have a say, and they can control. They can control what happens. And in smaller, populous states like Wyoming, or like they can really control it.
One guy can control whatever he wants. Yeah, if he's got the money for it. So that was a kind of a crap decision. But I think along the lines of the Supreme Court, there was another decision yesterday that was a little more, and I can't remember which one it was, but it was a little more even-handed, or I can't remember which ones came out yesterday. So I'll just forget about talking about that. But I guess then we can move. So there's our rage. It's out now. We're free of it, right? We're unburdened, unfettered by rage for this week. We've dumped it on you, our viewer. So thank you. So what did you learn this week, sir?
Fun to learn. Well, I guess maybe it was last week. But,
you're right.
I thought an interesting thing that I learned was that bees are the only other creature that we've discovered that has a unique language property that humans have.
Mm-hmm.
Is discrete displacement, whereas like displacement is that I can describe, maybe how my kitchen's arranged, and you can understand it without actually having been there, and I could tell you how to get there, and you could go there. So bees actually have a communication ability through flight So they do little circles, and then they go back and forth, and they can tell other bees where some nectar is and how far it is. And,
Yeah, I think I saw that same study that you must have read because it was rather interesting that how many different animals share kind of different characteristics with us, and it's unfortunately with bees we're losing them by the millions, and that is puts our planet in great peril. Without bees, we don't have food to eat.
yeah,
But
I figure bees are like, there's nothing good over there. Fuck it, let's just get out of here.
yeah, right. If you
That's what-
remember, do you on the topic of bees? So you're a little bit older than me. I remember in school, like maybe in middle school or maybe a little earlier or later than that. So the mid to late '80s, probably like the killer bee scare. You remember the killer bees are
yeah,
coming?
yeah,
Like they'd show these maps with them moving up from Mexico. They'd have a line like where the killer bee. What happened to killer bees? Like
yeah,
it just
right.
turns out they're just more aggressive, but they're not really killers, right? Yeah, you go
Well,
swatting
actually,
at their hives with a bat. Yeah, they're gonna go after you, but
that kind of plays into, I mean, where I learned about the bees was listening to a lecture by Noam Chomsky,
okay.
and there's a couple of concepts that he said that have spoken to me like over the years. One is that just as things are outside of the cognitive grasp of a rat,
Yeah.
there are things that are out of the cognitive grasp of humans.
Yeah, definitely.
Except the humans don't really like think that
Yeah.
anything's out of our cognitive grasp.
Yeah.
We think, and I guess at the time when I heard that, I thought, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like but I didn't really experience it or figure out like what those like limitations are. Like it wasn't an experiential reality. It was, I still just went back to the mind, like, yeah, I
Yeah.
can know everything, and we don't know, like, we can know it all, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, that was
And
so.
the idea with language, like being like the language is inherent in the bees,
Yeah.
right? The bee grows up, like they keep it isolated. It still knows to dance and say where the honey is, even though it never came in contact with another bee. Like we have, according to Chomsky's theory, which any theory, people can disagree with it, but that we have inherent inherent language within us, and that every culture of the 6,000 languages or whatever that we come across, like everybody has a complex language culture.
Hmm.
There's no simple languages where they don't,
Yeah.
like primitive peoples they use their creativity to have all kinds of fancy ways of communicating, because well, for whatever reason, and and so his concept is that through when Newton discovered that like the law of gravity and the law of motion, and things
Hmm.
in motion stay in motion, that it kind of blew apart the idea of the world as a machine. Like the whole idea was the world's a machine. If we could just figure out how it works, we could just we can
Yeah.
just recreate that, and then we could figure it out. And that kind of blew that out of the water. And we've really never been able to come up with any concept, unifying theory. All we can do is look at the different effects of
Yeah.
different disciplines, and be able to replicate them in the best that we can by trying to isolate the effects. And a lot of times the effects of things that we discover are discovered by accident, right? It's
Yeah.
not what we
Definitely.
thought.
Yeah.
So
We research something else and we come across this, and it's like, this is interesting. Let's follow this down this rabbit hole.
So really what he's saying is that the limits of the human mind are that we cannot grasp that any cause does not have an effect.
Hmm.
And any cause, like we have to attribute an effect to it, or we have a really strong predilection to do that. And that's really kind of the limitations of the human mind. Like we're always trying to like fit
Hmm.
the world back into that world as a machine,
Yeah.
concept. And for the most part, we're pretty much like emotional beings. who are driven by emotion, and then that emotion allows us to collect information that supports that emotion. But we think of ourselves, I think, as rational beings, and I think
Yeah.
our immediate experience is much more relevant than anything than we admit.
Yeah.
So we think of ourselves as these rational beings that can think of anything and can solve all problems, when really we're pretty limited. And I think the thing is, it sounds like that's like that's restricting, and people don't like it. It's kind of fun. It's really fun to watch the lecture and then watch the people ask questions. They lose their mind afterwards because nobody wants to be told that,
Yeah.
especially people, young, academics or whatever. No, what do you mean we can have consciousness? No, you're contradicting yourself. Like they get really flustered by it. But really, the limitations are what make us be able to do the wonderful things. Like the amazing things that we've created. And one example I guess I'd give you is like creativity.
Mm-hmm.
You think of creativity as something that's just somebody created something brand new, and we enjoy it. And that's not how it works. Really, creativity is just taking things that maybe a couple of different things, maybe they weren't associated before, and then putting them together to create something new. Because if you just created something totally new, you pretty much just, nobody would care, because it wouldn't make sense to anybody. You just appear to be somebody who's insane, and so really our limitations are a benefit, knowing our limitations. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe maybe something like Dawkins, when he rails against God, saying that's kind of insulting, because it's like it expands everything so wide open, where things are actually more exciting if you look at the effects and try to, like you're doing a disservice to the mystery of the world.
Yeah.
By just signing off that anything's possible, because there's
because there's a creator,
all-powerful somebody who can do anything. That's it. It's like it's more exciting. The limitation, science is more exciting because of the limitations and the trial and error and discovery. And that sort of thing.
That was I think kind of summed up in a graphic I saw on Facebook here a couple of weeks ago. It was the pie chart, and it had a tiny little sliver where was things you know, and then another tiny little sliver was things you know that you don't know, and then the whole rest of the pie was things that you don't know. Like there's things you don't even know that you don't know about. The universe is by all accounts infinite and infinitely expanding, and who knows what's out like we can't.
We're pretty much social creatures, so we have to act within the social world. And if one person went off by themselves and they discovered the true unifying, meaning of the world, like we'd never know, because we wouldn't understand what the hell they were talking about.
Yeah.
And just,
So we'll move on then to my learning for this week, and I actually was doing some reading. So this week, was it Michigan? No, Illinois. Illinois was the 11th state to legalize recreational cannabis. 33 states have medical or medicinal cannabis use. But Illinois now is the 11th state, and then plus Washington, D.C. all are legal for recreational. But that kind of led me down the rabbit hole of prohibition, and I was reading about one particular prohibition agent by the name of Izzy Einstein. He was a braggart, if you will. He bragged that he could find liquor in any city in under 30 minutes. And so he would go to these cities. In Chicago, it took him 21 minutes to find liquor. He went to Atlanta, 17 minutes. And in Pittsburgh, it took him only 11 minutes to find a drink. But New Orleans set the record for Mr. Einstein for 35 seconds. He asked his cabbie where he could find a drink, and the cabbie offered him a drink. So
There
that
you
was
go.
my learn. Just nothing too heavy. I just kind of, like I said, was on the rabbit hole of prohibition. Got sidetracked from marijuana prohibition over to alcohol
Right.
prohibition, but just
I, I
something that was interesting.
I had seen a thing on history and prohibition. Something I learned again was that they had like poisoned
Hmm.
some of the liquor, so that like a lot of people like died.
Oh, nice.
So the agents they seized the illegal alcohol and poisoned it and then let it be distributed to
Mm,
the speakeasies and stuff. So
horrible.
that's part of our lovely history.
Yeah, yeah, we're good people.
Light reading if you want to.
So then we'll move then on to love. What was your love for this week, sir?
So my love is an organization, um, Common Justice,
Okay.
uh, commonjustice.org. It's a organization in Brooklyn, and they've worked with the DA in Brooklyn and now I think in the Bronx. And they offer a program of restorative justice, which is an alternative to incarceration,
Okay.
where the victim can choose to say, yeah, I want restorative justice, rather than just send this person, you know, to prison for what they've done. And then they work with them what specifically the victim would like, to see. But then they also, usually it involves an apology um, and then some sort of program for them to um, get help for
Yeah.
whatever issue, led to the violation. And um, one of the shocking things is if you ask people, even people who participated, even people who victims who chose this restorative justice process, which many of them chose not because they have, any kind of compassion for the person that committed the violence, but for practical reasons that, if this person goes away for 3 or 5 years and they're going to come out and they're just going to victimize somebody else, they're going to be
Yeah.
even worse. And like, so for practical reasons, like 90% of people choose the restorative justice option. But even if you ask them, they think only about 10% would choose it, and 90% would choose, lock them up for, as long as they
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
I don't care. And so it really gives me some hope. And there's a DA, a DA who's running, and she was a public defender who's running as a DA in Queens, was also along those lines of, trying to keep people out of the system, and instead of just being chewed up by the system. Even they have some of these like uh, kind of like um, felon like programs where you can kind of be in the community, and then
Yeah.
you check in, and like some of them don't really work, and this woman who's been a public defender is like, this experience tells you, like, it's better just to be out of the system, and stop, arresting so many people, and
Yeah.
you know
Definitely. I feel
feeding
like.
the incarceration
Yeah.
nation that we've become.
Yeah, focusing on rehabilitation would be fantastic instead of just like you said, incarceration. But for-profit prisons have kind of put the kibosh on a lot of that, right? 'Cause the more people that are incarcerated, the more money they make, and so then you get them petitioning to pass stupid laws. A lot of marijuana policy laws were passed just because
Right.
it increased incarceration rather than trying to rehabilitate people.
But I know in New York City, like, it became an easy, like, you want your arrest rates, like, you just arrest people for petty shit, and it's like a lot easier than like trying to investigate stuff, or like,
Yeah.
wait for like serious crimes, or so you look good on paper and you get all these convictions. But I mean, that always made sense to me. I mean, growing up, or you know what they're doing makes sense to me. The system never made sense to me, the punishment system. I'm like, the whole point of the justice system, in my mind, is to keep society safe.
Yeah.
And the effect of what the system is now is like a vengeance
Well, yeah,
system,
wasn't
and,
that?
and like we said, feeding money. I mean, for God's sake, I mean, years ago, remember that judge in Pennsylvania was sending kids away for,
Yeah.
hey,
Yep.
we're going to, how come our love turned into rage?
Yeah.
That's not right.
Well, that was a decision. Dang it, where was it? Was it in the Parkland shooting? I think with the Parkland shooting, like a
Oh,
judge came out and said that police have no duty to protect citizens. Like that's not their job. They have no duty to do. It's like, are you fucking like? Then what are you fucking there for? But it turns out that they're there to arrest people for shitty crimes or stupid little petty shit and collect as much money for whatever state, local, or municipality that they happen to be working for. Like they're fee collectors now. It seems like. Uh,
like, um, well, actually, on that, you're talking about the officer that got charged with
so there was
not
that was a separate
a
thing.
bullet. Oh,
So this was uh, back
is that what
in
rape?
this was in December of 2018.
No, this is,
15 students filed a lawsuit. Um, what was it? Came to the, I know this is very compelling. So there was the one sheriff deputy, Scott Peterson,
yeah,
who did face. He was fired. I don't know if he's facing yet criminal charges.
yeah. He
Yeah.
just recently, just in the like last 2 months, like that was a rage item of mine because they charged him. They've charged him. I'm like, what the hell's wrong with our country? This is vengeance. That's why my like common justice is my love, because I love to give me the language of, yeah, I want justice, and you're mad, right?
Yeah.
But it's like I just don't want to, like in America, it's just like, oh, lock them up, and then the punchline, as John Oliver talked about on the show the one time, it's like, like rape is like a justice punchline for us. Yeah, he'll
Yeah.
go into jail and he get butt raped,
Mm.
where yeah, get it, you'll get it hard. Like,
Mhm.
what's wrong with us? Like,
Well, that was
that's
even.
not who I want to be, It's like, and you
Yeah.
feel that rage, and it's like, well, what do you do with it? Now I'm like, yeah, I want them to get restorative justice. I want them to,
So that
I want
was.
them to have to, come to the victim and
Yeah.
and apologize for what they did, and then learn why not to do it. And like now I feel like I have the language to,
So I
to be
was
able to
I was
feel that
watching.
rage and have it, expressed in a constructive way. So that's why it's my love.
Yeah, I was reading today about the Charlottesville guy was sentenced today. He received a life sentence.
Yes,
Um,
heard that. Yeah.
so I was reading a thing. Well, I don't know why. Again, I was in the damn comments section of this article about it, and somebody was like, oh well, he better find himself, a dance partner in prison because he's gonna get again the jokes, the rape this, the rape whatever. And I'm like, what makes you believe that that's gonna happen? Like there are plenty of other white supremacists in prison. He's gonna be in a gang. They're gonna welcome him with open arms. He'll have the protection of that group of people. Like it seems like there's this dichotomy in people's minds. Like you hear all the time, oh, these molesters or these other people, oh, they're going to get theirs. People in prison hate baby rapers or whatever. But then at the same time, like we think that they're not human because criminals no longer have the right to vote or any of these
Right.
other rights. So
Well,
how do we split that up in our minds? How do we say that there's some sort of inherent goodness in all of these criminals that they're going to punish amongst themselves, and yet at the same time they're not humans, right? They're subhumans.
right. Because we're emotional creatures. We deal in emotions, and we fill in the facts to
Yeah,
support our emotions.
definitely.
Have you seen the Netflix about the Central Park?
I haven't
Now
watched
that
that one. I know what you're talking about.
they
Yeah.
see it, now they see us, or um, oh my gosh, like I mean, the way it's depicted in the series is that, I mean, the only way that they were finally exonerated is because this rapist and murderer like came clean. Like
Yeah.
he had a conscience, or he found God, or whatever he did, and he decided to take ownership of everything that he did. Like he reconnected with his humanity. Like their justice rested on the humanity of somebody who was a rapist and a murderer,
Yeah.
and not on the people who were supposed to were
Hmm.
supposed to be doing their job and keeping, society safe. Even though it was the same judge and the same prosecutor that had prosecuted this rapist, and it was the same MO, and
Yeah.
that it came before them, they never even looked at it. And then that guy, he went on to rape and murder somebody else. And it was only through him reconnecting with humanity that they were found
Yeah.
innocent. Like, it makes you, we don't know what experiences are. We think we do because we
Yeah.
have emotions, and then we got to fill it in because we have cause. If there's a cause, there has to be an effect, and we got to. If there's an effect, there has to be a cause, and we're
Yeah.
going to just fill it in.
Yeah.
Oh, it must be because they're just monsters. That's it. Did you see the guy who somebody just the department of the guy that just resigned, and the guy just took over in the geez, because of the scandal with the kids and
Oh,
the
is
home, and
the ICE guy, or the customs?
yeah, the customs
Yeah.
enforcement or whatever.
Yeah.
And one of the guys that took over, he's like, "Oh, you go in there and oh, Trump is right and calling these guys, these MS-13, animals." And he's like, "I go in there and I see somebody, these kids' eyes, and I can see that they are gonna be that MS-13. I could
Yeah.
just tell." It's like, you can just tell, huh? You just looked at somebody and you felt rage in your heart, and you just know that they're evil.
John
That's our society.
Sanders. John Sanders resigned.
Not him. The guy, maybe the
The
guy
guy
that
that
took
took
over.
over for him, Mark Morgan,
Yeah, it might be
took
him.
his
I don't
job
know.
as director of ICE. But
It's monstrous, man.
mm,
I can look
definitely,
into somebody's eyes and tell that they are going to commit a crime.
yeah. Well, I mean, there's a movie about
Like
that,
the
isn't it?
Minority
Isn't
Report
there?
without any even foresight.
Exactly.
You're just like, I got a feeling.
Yeah.
I got a feeling you're no good.
Yep. Exactly. So we'll move then on to my love this week, which was David Gilmour, musician of Pink Floyd fame, or of David Gilmour fame. I would say he's more famous for being in Pink Floyd, right? Uh,
No.
Auctioned off 126 of his own personal guitars and raised $21.5 million, which he then promptly donated to the fight against climate change. So that was very cool to see, somebody doing a deed like that. Obviously, 21.5 million probably isn't gonna solve the problem by any means, but I guess we've got to keep putting drops in the bucket to try and stomp on that, because I think that's one of the things I have to kind of agree with my governor here, who is running for president, Jay Inslee. It's like I feel like climate change probably has to be one of our very top priorities. Like, there's a lot of crap that's wrong, but we're not going to fix any of it if we don't have a planet to live on. You know?
Right. It's definitely the most. It's definitely the most pressing issue. I mean, I guess you could make the argument that we need some sort of access to actual democracy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, we won't be able to
Yeah, well,
affect.
we won't be able to affect any change because
But
the oligarchy
we
doesn't
got
want to change, right?
but we don't actually need democracy to fix the climate change. Then we'll go with the climate change, because
Yeah.
you're going to destroy the whole planet. So
Yeah.
I don't know I don't know if there's any hope really, but I
You're
think
right.
that's
I
a
mean,
thing. Like, I don't think emotionally people like it's too much cognitive dissonance.
mhm.
You can't actually believe that and maybe still function. I think you can, because I don't know. I think we all know that we're mortal,
Yeah.
although it's kind of like it's the thing about knowing something and about like experiencing it though.
Yeah.
Like, we
Yep.
know we're all mortal, but we're like, yeah, I'm not
Eh.
feel immortal though.
Yeah, I'm not dead now,
Might live
so I must.
forever,
Yeah. If I'm not
So,
dead now, death doesn't exist. That's what it comes down to. Yeah.
'cause it's not like, I mean, when I was riding a bicycle once, I got hit by a car, came with very close to be really seriously injured, but like the next day, that night, that day, I was never so happy to be alive, I
Yeah.
touched my face, it's like, but that, because it's more of an experience of mortality, when you come close to it, all of a sudden it becomes more real, to where now it's like, I think I'm going to live forever,
Yeah.
not really. And it's like, if I really thought the planet, was about to end, like, what would I
Shouldn't I
do?
be
I don't
doing
know.
something else? Yeah, but I mean, I guess
I
we
also
we
think we don't really have that much power. There's 7.7 billion people on the
yeah.
planet. Kind of one of my things is like you kind of judge people by what do they do when they have the power.
Hmm.
And it's one of the things I try to judge myself. Like, what do I do when I had the power? When I was running different things or interacting with different people. Did I treat them with humanity and respect? And and maybe it's revisionist history in my thinking, but in many instances, I'm happy with myself that I did, that I did the right thing, and I
Yeah.
feel like I would do the right thing. But it's almost a thing maybe where we feel like we're too powerful, like we're always. It's kind of like white supremacy, right?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I can understand it. I benefit from it. I'm also a victim of it, and I don't, like just because I'm white, it's not like the Eddie Murphy skit from Saturday Night Live, where I get on the
Yeah.
bus and people start handing me money, and
Yeah.
it's like, like you try to, when I have the power, to do the right thing
Yeah.
and to confront to confront racism and to deconstruct it and not,
Yep.
not allow it to, try to confront your own implicit biases and, kind of learn about stuff instead of dismissing things. But
Yeah.
that
All right.
also kind of leaves you outside the social realities.
Yeah.
People don't want to hear that, because that's not part of their emotional, right? It's forced upon people of color. It's forced to be their emotional reality,
Well, yeah. They've
especially if they're poor or have to deal with or they have family members that are caught up in the racist criminal system. That becomes their emotional reality, and then their facts are are supporting that. And if you just don't look at it, then you don't know about it. And then it's not part of your emotional reality. So it just seems like, what the hell are you talking about?
yeah.
People go to jail because they did something wrong, plain and
Mm.
simple. That's it. But I
Yeah.
saw put a somebody put a meme or something about well, a lot of problems come from people who claim that all the world's problems are just because people didn't follow the rules. The rules are just what arbitrary people say.
Well, yeah. No, that's definitely true. I mean,
What was that last guy?
slavery was legal, right? So the rules
Right.
don't have some moral basis.
I just shared with you about in Maryland they have that huge cross.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Supreme Court 7-2 said that huge cross is not a symbol of Christianity. Okay.
Yeah.
If that's not emotion, parading itself as intellectual reasoning,
Who were the?
on
Do you,
display for the whole world to see,
do you happen
what
to
the
know who
hell
the two were? Who were the two dissenting?
is? No, I didn't see.
Hmm. Interesting.
But
But well, I was just trying to figure out if I could guess.
let's say
Oh, yeah, here we go. The
Ginsburg
Peace
and
Cross, right? In 40-foot tall Peace Cross in Salt Lake City.
yeah, about Ginsburg and uh, maybe not Sotomayor, but
Uh, I,
Breyer. I was thinking maybe Breyer or Sotomayor, maybe Breyer. I'd say Breyer and
Ginsburg. It
Ginsburg.
was Ginsburg and Sotomayor.
All right.
So there you go. Yeah. Hmm. But anyways, I guess that will move us on to our final. If we have anything that we want to for the birds or certified not terrible, you got anything to add? I kind of had a certified not terrible. It might be a little late to the party with it, but I haven't heard people talking about it, so I wanted to get it out there. Uh, Afterlife with Ricky Gervais, the
Right.
show on Netflix. Absolutely brilliant show. I loved it. I think if you haven't seen it yet, go out and watch it. Sit down. It's hilarious and kind of heartfelt at the same time. And I can kind of identify with some points in that show with Ricky. So definitely check it out. That's my certified not terrible.
Yeah, as I mentioned, the Netflix mini series about the Central Park jogger case.
Okay.
Now, why can't I remember the name of it? Now they see us, see us. Now they see us.
I'll look it up and you talk about it.
I forget. I've only seen it like hundreds of times now that I see tweets about it all the time, and started following the director, and I watched the Oprah after show, whatever.
When they see us.
When they see us, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh my God, I mean, heart wrenching. And then not terrible, I would say, the zombie movie with Adam Driver and Bill Murray.
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Dead Don't Die.
Okay.
So I went that with my wife, and yeah, we thought it was funny. It's definitely not your, you know, it's definitely a comedy,
Yeah.
and kind of a dry, satirical comedy. So yeah, I see it got kind of panned, but it didn't get certified fresh, and the audience really hated it. But oh, I thought it was laughed a
I'll
few
definitely
times.
check it out.
Got a little long at the end. We were ready
Yeah.
for it to be over, but that was fun.
All right. Good. Maybe we'll get like maybe I can find like a screen graphic that stamps on the screen. We can do a stamp of certified, or I don't know. We'll figure all that out. So the show definitely has a lot of polishing that still needs to be done. We'll figure this stuff out. Find a way to add in some video editing. Maybe I can edit out this closet over here and my laundry rack and the bed behind me. But other than that, I think not a bad show, and we kept it. I think we kept it under an hour. I think we're maybe right at an hour. 47 minutes. So there you go. No marathon for everybody to have to sit down and look at, and we'll go check it out on YouTube. We'll share the links. Any links? What was your love thing? We can share the link in the channel.
It's at Love Learn Rage.
No, the what Operation Justice or something like that. Was there a link?
Oh, commonjustice.org.
Okay, yeah, we'll definitely share that link down below so that people can check that out. Any links that we mention in the show, we'll try and keep track of and share down in the comments. But other than that, thank you, I guess, for listening to the Not Terrible Show. I'm Eric.
I'm Matthew.
And that's gonna wrap it up. Let me.
Oh,
What's that?
cut it?
Hold on, just a minute. Did you have something else to say?
Oh yeah, I'd like our sign off to be one Earth and one people.
Which Earth and which people?
One Earth, one people.
Okay.
Without humanity, we are not human. One Earth, one people.
Okay.
Let's get it done.
We can do that. So now if I just